So should you get the new Sony ZV1 Mark II, or should you get the Sony ZV1 first generation Mark I, just the regular ZV1? So there are a couple of things that are different with these two cameras. Sure, the aperture of the lens is different. There's no lens stabilization in this one. The aperture isn't as bright. It's an f4 where this is an f2.8 over here. You don't get that super slow motion, but honestly, that stuff on this camera, on a point and shoot camera like this, it doesn't matter to me, and it shouldn't matter to you either. The main differences between these two cameras are going to come down to two things. It's going to be audio and image stabilization is going to be considerably better on the ZV1 Mark II than on the ZV1 Mark I. So let's talk about that a little bit more. The ZV1 Mark I has that same microphone that they put in the ZV-E1, which I'm currently using the ZV-E1 right now to film this video, although I do have a shotgun microphone attached to the top. So the ZV1 Mark II has that directional microphone, and I filmed a vlog, the LIC vlog, testing out the ZV1 Mark II. I think it's called LIC vlog or something like that. I did test this out so you could see, and that was just handheld like this, holding it, no tripod, no microphone, just as if I took the camera out of a jacket pocket and then just opened it up, hit record, boom, ready to go. This entire vlog has been filmed on the ZV1 Mark II. Active stabilization turned on, and active stabilization, we're walking slow, now we're walking fast. Now we're picking it up to a light jog. Let's see how the camera's doing. How jumpy is it? It's probably fine. Helicopter up in the air. Let's see how that audio's doing. So you do get a considerable step up in audio from this one, and image stabilization as well. Now, audio on this one, not that great. All YouTubers, everyone was saying when the ZV1 came out back in 2020, the audio was great. I always found it tinny. I never found it really usable in a loud environment. The only good thing about the audio on this camera is it came with this wind muffler, and I actually think I like the way this one looks better with the gray wind muffler than the black wind muffler, but hey, it's a tool, it does a job, doesn't need to look great. I also tend to like the way that this looks with the brown wooden small rig cage here and the gray wind muffler, whereas this one is just like an all black. This one is a little bit more something that I want to put on a shelf and then just display it just because it looks a little bit nicer. So with the ZV1 first generation, you do get standard stabilization, which is okay. It's not great. You can tell the camera's still a little bit shaky, but it still does the job, and as long as you're not running, and maybe if you're just walking a bit slower, trying to hold it a little bit steady, it does the job. Sony ZV1, standard stabilization. This is probably just acceptable. So from just doing a couple of other tests and having this camera for a while, the standard stabilization is just passable. You get a 24mm wide lens on this. That's the widest it goes. And with that standard stabilization, you don't get any type of crop. You crop into that active stabilization, you're at a 30 or 32mm. You've got to hold your hand all the way out here just to fit your head in the frame like that. ZV1 Mark I, my arm is now fully extended. We are on the active stabilization mode, and you could see if I start to relax, my big old head barely fits in this frame. So the stabilization, it is here. However, you got to hold the thing 3-4 feet out in front of you. So the active stabilization in this one is not usable if you're going to point it at your face and talk to it and make believe you're talking to someone when you're just talking to a piece of technology. If you want to use the active stabilization and turn it around, then yeah, of course, because you don't need to be relying on the length of your arms or relying on the length of a extendable tripod like this one. This one's from Ulanzi. So those are the main differences between the ZV1 Mark I and the ZV1 Mark II. The other main difference is at the time of filming this video, which is October 2nd, Monday, this ZV1 goes for $649, call it $650. This one goes for $900. $250 between the two of these just to get a better microphone and better image stabilization. But paying $950 for this, the microphone is good. However, it's still not something you want to use all the time. So $650 for the ZV1. And if you purchase the ECMG one, the cheapest shotgun microphone, now you slide it in, no cables, it just connects straight to the hot shoe. Greatest thing about the ECM microphones, really enjoy it. Now you're talking $900, $650 plus $150 is $800. Now you're talking $800 versus $900. Still has better image stabilization because that active stabilization, this is an 18mm wide lens that crops into probably about a 24mm. So you're pretty much getting that 24mm equivalent as you would on this one at its widest end. 24mm perfect stabilization, decent quality audio, not as good stabilization, better audio, and you're saving $100. This is starting to look like a lot more of a deal. So image stabilization, audio, but what we are going to do is we're going to connect this fuzzy thing to the top of the camera and see if that makes a difference. All right, we are recording. We've got the Sony ZV1, the smaller one, $150 microphone attached to the top. There are no cables. I glued on the wind muffler because it kept falling off. But how does this sound in a super windy environment? I'm sure it sounds quite a bit better than the onboard audio on this camera. And not to mention, you're gonna wanna probably get something like this. That way you could just screw it on. I don't use the release plates for these cameras. You could screw it on, now you can hold it out like that. I've done vlogs like this before. You can prop it up on a bench. You can do a talking shot. I used to prop this thing up on my desk before I got this nicer camera. I don't know how much this one costs. I wanna say it costs between $30 and $50, this particular Ulanzi MT16 tripod, very lightweight, very good. You're probably still at around $850, $875, or worst case scenario, $900. And this one, you just get $900, just the camera, nothing else. And we're not, you know, the cages are about $50 or so, I don't really remember. Amazon links all this stuff in the description if you want to buy it and help me out with the affiliate links, no cost to you, appreciate it. This is pretty much about equal now. $650 for the camera, $150 for the microphone is $850, $850 to $900 with this one, $900 with this one. So this one's starting to look like a much better deal, especially since you have the same sensor, practically the same lens. You do get a brighter lens on this one. However, if you are interested, if you want to get a better low light camera, I would just steer clear from the ZV1. I would steer clear away from the point and shoot and jump up into the APS-C lineup. That way you can put on a brighter lens, or you can go full frame if you have the money. This does have a brighter lens though. When you zoom it into 70, you are at f2.8, whereas when you zoom this one all the way in, you are at an f4. I don't think you should base your decision off this. These cameras are not going to do very well in low light compared to an actual camera, and honestly, it doesn't make much of a difference. So it really is sounding at this point like the ZV1 Mark I is a better buy, right? Well, that depends. If you have it in this configuration, it's pretty much going to be the same as this. And look, you could even turn on active stabilization, and you got to hold your arm all the way out there. And now you're going to have good audio, better audio than this, and you're going to have better stabilization because this one has lens stabilization and active stabilization, so it's going to look better. However, which one is more pocketable? This whole setup or this whole setup? What you could do is you could bend this around. Maybe you can fit that in a jacket pocket. Now it's a little bit more compact, but which one can you throw in your back pocket of your jeans or your back pocket of your shorts? Not that I'd recommend doing that. The ZV1 Mark II. So that is where the ZV1 Mark II really shines. Yes, it's more money. However, you get a lot more freedom and versatility. You can just throw it in your jacket pocket. You can just pull it out. You can just open it, hit record, and you're ready to go. Yes, the audio isn't going to be quite as good as with a shotgun microphone. However, if you want that flexibility and that freedom to be able to just throw it in your jacket pocket without a microphone on top like this one, without any sort of tripod, just a jacket pocket and maybe a little wrist strap that you should always use, this is where this camera really shines. Yes, it's going to cost you an extra $250 to get that freedom and versatility. However, if that's the way you're going to use the camera, this is the one you should go for. Now let's not forget this ECM G1 microphone for $150. This is not your only option. You can go with the Rode Video Micro first generation. I believe this one's about $49 on Amazon right now. Or you can go with the Rode Video. Sorry, that was pretty loud. You can go with the Rode Video Micro 2, which is a nice, sleek, much more minimal setup. It doesn't stand as high. Here's the first gen, here's the second gen. $150 for the ECM G1, $80 for the Rode Video Micro 2, and this is a very viable option. This Rode Video Micro second generation, it is going to give you better sound quality than the ECM G1. The purpose of the ECM G1, oh, this wire is super tight, huh? There we go. This is just for demonstrational purposes. The good thing about the ECM-G1 or a microphone like the ECM-B10 is you can just slide it in and no cables. This one, you've got to put a cable on. You've always got to do that. However, you are going to get better audio quality, I almost said better image quality, out of this one than with this one. So this is a lot more convenient for running and gunning vlogging. This one's going to get better audio quality. Now, I would also argue that if you really want that minimal setup, throw this in your bag, use it when you can. It's still not super bulky. I mean, if you use the big furry thing, yeah, you should always use the big furry thing. But what you could always do in a pinch is just keep that wind muffler on top. And as long as you're not in a loud environment, like talking in a subway station or in a concert, this one's gonna do you just fine. So if you've already got both of these cameras, what should you do? I'm probably gonna start to sound like every other person on YouTube. Probably not worth upgrading to this camera over this camera, just because this camera, you pretty much, you already spent your money. You've had this camera for at least a year. You can very easily just get a microphone, the ECM-G1 microphone. You probably already have a tripod. And what you could also do is, I still think the lens is wide enough on standard stabilization, not active stabilization. The lens is still wide enough where you can hand hold it, and now you're getting slightly worse stabilization, however, still passable, better audio quality. And for this one, you're getting better stabilization, better onboard audio, and it's a little bit more pocketable. But when you look at them like this, it's still going to fit inside of a jacket pocket. This one, you're just not going to be able to throw it in the back of your jeans pocket in the summertime when you don't need a jacket. For me, the ZV1 Mark 1 works better right now, just because when I go out, and I'm doing this full time. So when I go out, every time I leave the house, I always have a backpack. I always have my camera, so I'm always going to have space to carry all of these accessories. And I already paid for this one back in 2020, so why would I keep the $900 one where it's practically the same thing? Now we also have to talk about this. Your telephone also is always in your pocket, and in my experience, the telephone, the iPhone, has better audio quality than the ZV1, even the ZVE1. Better audio quality, better image stabilization, like really good image stabilization. Go watch one of my vlogs with the one with the pink tree that I have for the thumbnail. That was filmed all on this, but of course, this is going to fall apart in low light a lot faster than the ZV1 with the 1-inch sensors. And if it's windy, there's not a whole lot you can do. You're going to have to connect something like a long lavalier mic like that, or start playing around with wireless mics. So the downside of using the smartphone is if you're out in the wind, you're not going to be able to use that audio because all you're going to hear is that wind noise. Whereas something like the ZV1 Mark II, or even the Mark 1, but more the Mark II, you're going to be able to pull it out of your pocket, open it, hit record. It's going to record good audio, no wind noise because the wind muffler. It's just going to be a lot faster of a run and gun situation. However, if you're on a budget and you've already got the ZV1 Mark 1 and you've got an iPhone 13 or later, I would say just skip the ZV1 Mark II and probably start looking into those APS-C line cameras. If I had the ZV1 Mark 1, if this was my only camera and I looked at the ZV1 Mark II, I would actually invest in the ZV-E10 or the A6700 just to get that interchangeable lens system, and you get a lot more flexibility and better low light capabilities with those systems. Now, if you're looking for something that you just throw in your pocket and you don't want something where it's going to be a big and bulky setup and you just want to be more focused, I always find I'm more focused when I'm using one of these cameras as opposed to my phone with everything else on it. And you want the ability to change out SD cards, practically have as much storage as you need. That's where the point and shoots do shine over the iPhone, where you're still gonna get a better picture quality out of the ZV1 cameras with the 1-inch sensors as you are with the smartphones and their super tiny sensors. Also, maybe you don't have a lot of storage left on your phone and you're constantly filling your phone up with pictures. You wanna keep it separate? Yeah, and then the ZV1 Mark II really works. If you're on a tight budget, I would say just get the ZV1 Mark 1, maybe get one of these microphones, maybe wait for the ECM-G1 to go on sale. You're going to spend a lot less money and you're going to be pretty much 90% of where you are with this one. And yes, the Mark II is going to be a much better handheld. Throw it in your pocket, take it out. It's just going to work with no accessories, just the way you see it right here. I would always recommend with these smaller cameras, to use some sort of a grip, like a tripod, that way you can extend it and use some sort of a ECM-G1 type shotgun microphone. You're just going to get a better experience, and you're going to get a much better quality video with audio to go with it as well. And you should always carry this stuff in a backpack. The pocketable camera, it's just a marketing gimmick. Pocketable camera, you have one already. We all have one. It's called a telephone. As I mentioned, Amazon affiliate links to all the stuff shown in the video below. Appreciate it if you click it. It's no extra cost to you. I do make a small commission. Hope this video helped you make the decision. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.